It is Monday, February 15th, 2016, and welcome to the Multifarious Man Podcast, episode number 20. It's the Sport of Kings. As always, I am your host, Jay Vincent. You can follow me on Twitter at Multifarious Man or follow the podcast and blog at www.multifariousman.com. If you're listening in the United States, happy President's Day. For the rest of the world, it is the day after Valentine's Day. Of course, this episode has absolutely nothing to do with either day. Last weekend, we saw Denver Broncos win the Super Bowl, and last night, the NBA held its All-Star game, which the West won, scoring unprecedented amount of points. Again, combined points were, over 300. So, thanks again to the All-Stars in the NBA game for not playing any defense. But I digress. More importantly to me, at least, pitchers and catchers start reporting for the unofficial start of the baseball spring training next week. So, going with my sports theme, I'm going to talk about my favorite sports and sports-themed movies of all time. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold. All the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand. I'm the multifarious man. All right, welcome back to the show. Again, this is the Multifarious Man Podcast, episode number 20. It's the Sport of Kings. Now, first up on this week, we're going to talk about what I'm reading, watching, and listening to. Now, the books I'm reading, it's actually part of a trilogy which I recently started called the Shattered Sea trilogy. And I've read the first two books, or finished the first one called Half a King, and I'm reading the next one called Half the World. Basically, this is a story that takes place in a Middle-earth type realm. Apparently, it was after the elves, who are right now in this book, they are creatures of lore and of history. Apparently, they did something with magic and destroyed the world. So now, so far, at least in the first two books, there's just humans. And, there's the High King, and then there's, of course, all the other lower kings. And the first book deals with one of the kings. It starts with him and his next in line, the prince, being killed. And, of course, the third in line to the throne, who was actually getting ready to take his vows as a minister. And in this world, the ministers are advisors to the kings and queens. Well, suddenly he had to be sworn in as king. Well, that's how it started, and it was downhill from there for him. But very interesting story. Second one picks up kind of a little bit after the first book took place. War is on the horizon. All the different lower kingdoms are starting to rebel because the High King is taking a lot of taxes and, all the different things that oppressive regimes do. So, battle is on the horizon. But it's a really good book. I'm enjoying them so far. It's by an author by the name of Joe Abercrombie, like from Abercrombie and Fitch, but not related. But it's very good. I'm enjoying it. Almost done with the second book, and I'm looking forward to the third book in the series. Now, what am I watching? Well, unless you live under a rock or you just pay no attention to anything, you know that last night, the second half of the season of Walking Dead came back. Now, I don't do any spoilers on this podcast, so I'm going to leave it at that, other than saying that it was a phenomenal episode. Everything that people love about The Walking Dead, from fight scenes with zombies to unexpected deaths, people being saved in the nick of time. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat for the whole episode, because the way it plays out, you really don't know who's safe. Just remember, this is The Walking Dead, and no one is safe at any time. If you haven't watched it yet, hurry up and watch it, because people at work are going to be talking about it. And if you haven't watched it, well, stay off Twitter and Facebook or you will see spoilers. So, that being said, check it out. Now, what am I listening to? Well, this one's a little bit of surprising, and it's the latest album by Justin Bieber called Purpose. Um, all I can tell you is it seems like this young man, it didn't look like he'd be able to do it at first, but he seems to have made a good transition from a kid star, kid singer, to a young adult. And this album, Purpose, he's got some really good producers and some excellent songwriters, and the songs are in heavy rotation. The songs I'm really listening to and enjoying now are Sorry, and especially the song called Love Yourself. If you haven't heard it, check it out, listen to the singles. I'm really surprised. So kudos to Justin Bieber and his team for putting together a quality album. And, hopefully this means it's a sign of him maturing into an adult recording artist. So wish him the best. Enjoy the music. It's really good. Now, that's it for what I'm reading, watching, and listening to. And when we come back, we'll talk about my favorite sports movies or sport-themed movies. All right, welcome back to the show. Again, this is the Multifarious Man podcast. I am your host, Jay Vincent, and here we are on episode number 20. It's the Sport of Kings. So, baseball is my favorite sport. Hands down, favorite sport, nothing like it, I don't care. Now, sports movies, on the other hand, sports movies can kind of capture, everything from little league sports to big league sports to college sports, and each of them kind of, there's good and bad. You can like a sport and not enjoy a sports movie, or you can have a movie where it's about a sport that you didn't really think you'd enjoy. So my list has a little bit of everything. Hopefully it's, if there's movies you haven't seen, maybe it'll get you to watch it. Or maybe they'll get you interested in a sport that you didn't think you'd enjoy. So, without further ado, and other than the last movie, all of the movies on here can be taken in any order. Don't, see them as, well, this is my favorite or least favorite. Everything except the final one is kind of like, this is just what I enjoy, and the movies are in any order. So, that's really it. So, we'll start off with Bend It Like Beckham. This movie takes place in England, and it is about two teenage girls and their love of soccer. And of course, David Beckham, who, if you don't know anything about soccer, until he recently retired, he's probably the most famous soccer player in the world. Well, at least part of the world, because you have Messi and a few others that are popular now, but David Beckham was it. So these girls, David Beckham was their hero, and it's about two friends, one, the young white girl from England, and her best friend, who's Indian. Family, wants her to be traditional, doesn't want her to play sports exactly. So this story is about how her love of sports and how, she sticks with it, and she's really good. There's love, there's laughter, there's family, and it's just a really, really good movie. I mean, you'll stand up and cheer, you'll laugh, you'll cry along with them. Even if you don't like soccer or don't really know much about soccer, I recommend it. It's a really feel-good movie, and, it's worth watching again. I mean, now when I see it on, doesn't matter, whether it's the beginning or the end, I definitely sit and watch it, and I've enjoyed it with my children. So you would definitely, not be disappointed if you watch Bend It Like Beckham. And, of course, if you like soccer, then, of course, it's even more enjoyable. Next on the list is a baseball film, and this one is called Rookie of the Year. Now, this one kind of lets you it's kind of like what I call the fantasy type situation where you kind of get to live out your fantasy. You know, every kid, or at least when I was growing up, every little boy wanted to grow up and be a professional baseball player. Well, the premise of Rookie of the Year is, typical, preteen, teen boy, plays with his friends, likes playing little league baseball, likes going fishing, does all these type of things. Well, he has an accident and he breaks his arm. Okay, innocent enough. Kids break their arms all the time. Well, the twist here is when the kid gets his cast taken off, I guess the way they explained it, the tendons in his elbow, were so tight that now suddenly this little 12, 13-year-old boy can throw 95-mile-per-hour fastballs. So, of course, in the world of, movie magic, sure enough, he goes to a Cubs game, and the ball goes into the stands, and he throws a strike from, like, the outfield. And next thing you know, this kid is on the Cubs. They were like a worst place, last place team, perennial laughing stock. And here now suddenly you have this kid on the team, and he's a pitcher, and he's helping them win. And, not going to give it away how the movie ends, but, it deals with how his friends that were his friends before he became a big leaguer, and how they kind of feel left out once he's playing with the Cubs every day, and also being a little boy trying to fit in to a sport played with grown men, and all the things that go with it, and of course being leaned on heavily to help the team win. So it's a fun escapist movie. And if you ever wanted to play in the big leagues, it's definitely, worth it. It's kind of fun to see this little kid and the joy and excitement that he has, and all the little things that you did in Little League, all the little chants, all the little tricks and fun parts of it, and he kind of gets to experience it. So definitely I recommend it. Again, that's called Rookie of the Year. There was another movie that came out around the same time called Little Big League, a little bit similar. In that movie, this kid inherits the Minnesota Twins from his grandfather. So as the new owner, well, the team's not doing well, so he decides to make himself the coach and allow himself to play. But it's, not as crazy as it seems. Of the two, I personally like I like Rookie of the Year better, but, you can't go wrong with either one. Next up on my list, in the world of ice hockey, this one's called The Mighty Ducks, and this one stars Emilio Estevez, and the young man that would go on to be Pacey on Dawson's Creek, Joshua Jackson. And basically, Emilio Estevez plays this guy that, from what I remember, I think, Wall Street or something like that. Either way, he is sentenced to community service, and the community service is coaching this little league hockey team. And of course, as always, they're the worst of the worst. They never win anything. They're a ragtag bunch. They have a girl on the team, which seems to be a theme of a lot of these movies, and probably started with one that I'm going to mention later on in the show. But, there's always that, all the different character types, and, he's the father figure to one, and it's just a really enjoyable story, fun movie. They made a few more sequels after it. You take that with a grain of salt, whether you want to check out the sequels, but definitely check out the first one, Mighty Ducks. Fun, fun, fun. You get to stand up and cheer. You get to really, enjoy it because it's just a fun movie. And later on, when the hockey team owned by Disney actually came out, they actually took on the name as the Mighty Ducks. So, life imitating art, imitating life. So definitely check that one out. It's a fun movie. I mean, a lot of these kind of have that same theme of the underdog coming out on top, especially if it's a kid team. Now, next up on the list is probably one of my favorite, and it's not my favorite of all time, but it's one of my favorite, and it's called Major League. Now, this is Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, and Wesley Snipes, and Basically, it's about the Cleveland Indians. They're the worst team in the league, and then suddenly Charlie Sheen, who just got out of prison, joins the team, and he's dubbed Wild Thing. Throws a really fast fastball, and he joins the team, and it's just a comedy. So it deals with them getting this team together. Tom Berenger's the old salty career minor leaguer, major leaguer, and his job is to kind of help this rookie who joins the team and to keep him out of trouble and take him out of the wing. And of course, it's the old worst to first type story. It's the underdogs again, common theme in a lot of these movies. And Major League has lots of laughs, lots of fun. The gentleman that would go on to play President Palmer on 24 does all the Allstate commercials, was on the unit for a while. He plays a Cuban baseball player, Serrano. There's a lot of characters on it. Corbin Burnson plays, the third baseman that used to be a superstar, but now he's getting up in age, and, he's fighting to stay on the team. They have the gruff manager who yells and screams at everyone, so it's a lot of fun, definitely worth checking out, and that, of course, is Major League. Next up on the list, this one's a little bit older. It's a football movie. I think it's the first of a few football movies on my list, and it's called Wildcats, and it actually stars Goldie Hawn. And in fact, the title of this episode, It's the Sport of Kings, that's pretty much the theme song from Wildcats, the movie. And it stars a young Wesley Snipes, a young Woody Harrelson, and the premise of this story is Goldie Hawn has loved football her whole life. She knows everything about about football. She learned it from her father, who was a high school football coach, and no one ever wants to give her a chance. She's a woman. Why would she have a chance to coach football? So finally, someone gives her a chance to coach a football team, and it's pretty much the worst football team in the city, in the worst neighborhood. But that's all she can get. And she takes these guys and, makes them a winner. And it's, all about the obstacles that go along the way as she, gets this team to win and gets them to believe in themselves. So it's a fun movie. I want to say if it wasn't rated R, it's PG-13, has some language in it. But it's a football movie through and through, and it's a lot of fun. Now, staying with that football theme is another one that's a more recent film, and this stars Denzel Washington, and it's called Remember the Titans. And the premise of this movie is Denzel Washington, this is during the Civil Rights era and segregation. He takes over a team, the Titans. He replaces, the white coach, and they bring him in, and they're combining these two schools. So you have the black school and the white school, and they're forcing these players to work together to form a team. And unknown to anyone else, the school board and everyone who doesn't want this to happen, they basically make a decision that if the team loses any games, then Denzel Washington's going to be fired immediately. So what do you do when you come in and you're now forced into a situation to coach a team with, kids that aren't used to playing together? You have the old coach who stays on to coach defense. So basically this is a story about how the power of sports can, get people to put their differences behind themselves and learn that we have a lot more in common as people than we don't. But it's a feel-good story. It's, some good football action, some good comedy between, the camaraderie between the players and how they all band together to fight oppression and segregation and prejudice. It's, it's a lot more fun than it sounds, but you'll enjoy it. It's called Remember the Titans. Definitely check it out. Now, the next one on the list is probably the one oddball in the sense that the main character in this story doesn't even play sports. He's a sports agent. And, of course, this is Jerry Maguire, which Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor for his role as a football player, a brash football player. And, of course, Show Me the Money, Show Me the Money. You Had Me at Hello has a lot of quotable lines from it. But it's really a phenomenal story. It's a story about a man who's lost, who's Tom Cruise is the title character, who's lost his way. He isn't enjoying what he's doing as a sports agent because it's not personal anymore. It's all a business. So he takes a chance to go the more personal route. So he quits his job in the big main sports agency and strikes off as his own. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is the only client that he has. Renee Zellweger also joins him, so it's kind of a love story. It's a sports story. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a story about people, but it has some funny lines, some really good character piece, and Cameron Crowe, who wrote and directed it, again, his dialogue is spot on. So if you enjoy sports movies, if you enjoy some comedy, if you enjoy football, and of course if you like Tom Cruise, definitely check out Jerry Maguire. Another oldie but goodie that I have on the list is Hoosiers. This stars Gene Hackman, and I want to say it takes place in the 50s, and it's about Indiana State basketball. So this is as traditional as you can get. And it's a story of a team trying to win the state championship, and Gene Hackman's the coach. I used to know a lot more about this movie, and I honestly haven't seen it in years, but he had the assistant coach who was a drunk. But the key to this one is Gene Hackman teaching these boys getting them down to the fundamentals of basketball and how they can end up beating the big powerhouse teams just by playing, being very crisp in, their execution. But it's a feel-good story, and, it culminates in the state championship game. So definitely check it out. If you like basketball, it's, probably on a lot of people's top list for top sports movies, but definitely top basketball movies. So check that one out, Hoosiers. Next couple on the list are baseball themed. The first is Bingo Long and the Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings. And this is Billy D. Williams, James L. Jones, Richard Pryor. And this movie takes place in the late 30s. It's near the end of the Negro League of Baseball. And this is a team, that travels the country. They do barnstorming, and these are like the best of the best. They're like the, Satchel Paige type players or Josh Gibson type players. So, of course, James L. Jones is the Josh Gibson type super home run hitter, and Billy D. Williams is the Satchel Paige type character. But it's a funny story. But it's serious in the sense that you get to see kind of the things that a lot of the black ball players, had to go through before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. So you had two distinct leagues, and before they went out of business. Once you had integration in baseball, they just once all the best players started going to the major leagues, the Negro leagues became defunct. But it's a nice story in a time gone by. And you could tell when these guys made this movie that they were having a lot of fun. So definitely check it out. It's called Bingo Long and the Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings. Now, next up on the list, it's probably, one of my favorite of all times, and it is called Field of Dreams. Now, this is surprisingly also with James Earl Jones, but this is a movie starring... Oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank. Mr. Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner. There we go. And this is where you hear the phrase, "If you build it, they will come." And this is a story of a man that has a farm, and suddenly he starts hearing a voice that says, "If you build it, they will come." So he plows down his field and builds a baseball stadium in the middle of nowhere. Just because he was hearing voices. It's, this movie really will make you laugh or make you cry. It's about fathers and sons and the connections they have through sports. So it's not even just necessarily baseball, but it's fathers and sons and their relationships, whether your father died young or died old or you're estranged. It's definitely worth sitting down and watching it and seeing the journey of faith and belief that they go on, and how important family is in sports in general. So, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Definitely check it out. I love that movie, and whenever it's on, I definitely sit and watch it. Next on the list is going back into the world of skating, but this time it's not ice hockey, it's figure skating. This one is a surprising movie starring D.B. Sweeney and Moira Kelly, and it's called The Cutting Edge. It's a story of Moira Kelly. She was an Olympic figure skater, and during the last Olympics she was in, because she does mixed doubles, so man and woman couple skating. Something happened and they didn't win. She didn't come through at the end. She blamed her partner. He blamed her. But she's spoiled rich girl. Father gives her everything to help her win a gold medal, but she doesn't get along with anyone. And here comes D.B. Sweeney, who is a washed-up ice hockey player who no one will hire, and this is the only job he can get because he basically kind of got ran out of the league. But he's an excellent skater, but he doesn't know anything about figure skating. It's a completely different type of skate. So, of course, you mix oil and water, they don't mix. At its core, it's a love story, and, you won't be embarrassed to watch it because, it's a fun story. You'll understand what toe pick is. And to see these two people that have nothing in common come together to win the big one in the Olympics, that's, and the ice skating scenes, are, really enjoyable. I mean, the way it's filmed, the technique they used, you feel like you're right out there on the ice. But it's another one of these feel-good stories about the underdog, but, it's basically a love story on ice. I highly recommend it watching it by yourself, watching it as a couple. Of course, this is, Valentine's Day weekend, so definitely check it out. Next on the list is The Karate Kid. I mean, what can you say? Ralph Macchio, as a kid that moves from Jersey to California, he thinks he knows a little bit of karate, but he doesn't really. He gets beat up over a girl, and Mr. Miyagi takes him under his wing, Pat Morita, and shows him how to, fight with honor. And of course, he goes from being bullied to being able to stand up against the bullies. All the phrases, sweep the leg, Johnny, the whole crane kick. Definitely check it out. This is The Karate Kid. Of course, Ralph Macchio still looks the same way now as he did almost 30 years ago. You can skip the remake with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith. Definitely go for the original. Even the sequel, Karate Kid 2, was good. You can leave alone Karate Kid 3 and the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. So just stick with the first two, Karate Kid and Karate Kid 2. Now we're getting to the end of the list, and the last two movies I have on this list, they probably are 1 and 2 my favorite sports movies of all times. And again, like I told you, baseball is my favorite sport. So, of course, they both have to do with baseball. And I'll just flip a coin because they really are 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A. The first one is called The Sandlot. And it's about a bunch of kids getting together every day during the summer and playing baseball from sunup to sundown on a sandlot. And of course, these are the kids that don't have much money. They don't play on the good sports teams. And of course, these kids, they don't have much money, but they love baseball. So they play just for the sake of playing baseball. So of course, the bad guys in the movie are all the kids with the nice bikes and the nice uniforms that play official Little League baseball. There's the one kid that, everyone thinks one day is going to go to the big leagues. But the whole story is kind of seen through the eyes of this little kid that first moves to the neighborhood with his mom and his stepdad, and doesn't really have any friends, doesn't really know much about baseball, but he's willing to learn and willing to play. He has to borrow a glove. And to see this little kid as he goes from not being able to play at all, and the excitement that the other kids have the first time he catches the ball, first time he gets a big hit, all the little things that go on. And now that I think of it, here's another movie with James Earl Jones in it. That seems to be a common theme that I didn't even think of. But he plays an old guy that everyone's scared of. So basically, if you hit your ball over the fence, it goes in this yard, and this old man has a giant dog, and they just chalk it up. They're like, you know what? If it goes in that yard, we just need another ball. Game's over. But real fun. When you hear people say, "You're killing me, Smalls," that's from Sandlot. Definitely check it out. It's probably several generations have watched this movie now and have enjoyed it just as much as I did as I was a kid. Yeah, and I even saw this one in the movie theaters. But they show it a lot, especially during the baseball season. If you hadn't had a chance, definitely it's worth checking out. Again, it's called The Sandlot. And in fact, the comedian Dennis Leary actually has a starring role in it. He actually plays the kid's stepdad. He's actually pretty good in it. But check it out. If you love baseball, if you love sports, I definitely recommend The Sandlot. Now, finally, last but not least, probably my favorite sports movie of all time, and I've seen this and its sequels many times. You can skip the remake. I'll say it right now. And this is called The Bad News Bears. Stars Walter Matthau and Tatum O'Neal as, when she was a little girl. She was the one girl on the team, but she was their best pitcher. So The Bad News Bears. Anytime you hear someone say, they're the Bad News Bears of their league. So this is basically, and it works for any sport, and it's the worst team, the worst players. They, scrappy, have a lot of heart, but they're not very good. That's the Bad News Bears. And Walter Matthau, is he drinks beer in the dugout. He curses, he swears. It's really not a politically correct movie. It probably would have been rated R if it had come out today. But it's, he has fun with these kids, and he teaches them how to play. And, of course, they go up against, the better baseball teams that have the best sponsors. I mean, the Bad News Bears, the back of their uniform says Chico's Bail Bonds. So, that's the difference, where most, might be sponsored by a bank and have new uniforms every year with their name on it. These guys, it's a bail bondsman and a drunk as a coach. So it's a fun movie. Very funny, a lot of great baseball scenes. Kelly Leak, who's the name of the character, that's like the best. He's the kid from the other side of the tracks. He's the cigarette smoking, swearing, motorcycle riding kid, but he hits like 400 or 500, some ridiculous numbers. He actually tells everyone his numbers. Hey, I'm Kelly Leak, and I hit so-and-so last year. And the only reason they got him to play was because Tatum O'Neal character beat him in ping pong. This is a kid that would hustle people at ping pong. She beat him. He agreed to join the team, and of course, the rest is history. These kids go on to, play their version of the Little League Championship. And they made a couple of sequels, Breaking Training and Little Bad News Bears in Japan. Take them or leave them, but they're all fun stories. You'll have a good time watching them. I know I do. Maybe it's because baseball is my favorite sport, and I played Little League Baseball, and I remember, having old uniforms and, playing on horrible fields with craters and, rocks and, not nice grass and muddy outfields. And then to see, when you would go and you'd play the teams that had the fine manicured lawns, the perfect mound, all the lines drawn on the field, fences in the outfield. That was always a big thing. If you got to play on a field that actually had fences where you could hit home runs, or had lights where you could play at night. That was like big time. So Bad News Bears is definitely the number one on my all-time favorite sports movies. Um, that's it. That's my list. Maybe you have a different list. Let me know if there's something I missed, a movie that you like that you'd like mentioned. You can, of course, follow me at Multifarious Man on Twitter, or send me an email at multifarious.man.podcast@gmail.com, or add a comment on the website, www.multifariousman.com. Let me know. Maybe you want me to mention like a Days of Thunder, which is a NASCAR movie. It's actually really good. Probably would have made my list if we were just talking about racing movies. Or even the comedy, the Will Ferrell comedy, the Legend of Ricky Bobby. So you tell me. Maybe I missed something. Maybe it's your Tin Cup or Happy Gilmore, if you want to get into more of the golf movies, or Caddyshack. All of those are kind of comedies. And I'm sure on another day they would have made the list. So there's nothing against that, or Kingpin, which is bowling. So I don't have anything against the other sports, or even anything about cycling, like Breaking Away, or movies about running or about track. So you tell me. Let me know if I missed something. If not, I had enjoyed this show. Hope you did too. Drop me a line, and when we get back, we will finish it out. All right, we're back, finishing up episode number 20. It's the Sport of Kinks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If I mentioned some movies that you haven't seen in years, maybe you'll go back and check them out. Or maybe I mentioned a movie that you've never seen before. But, you can always have fun with sports movies. Either another one I just talked about, Miracle, which deals with the U.S. hockey team that beat the Russians in the semifinal game. In the Olympics. People forget they went on to beat Finland in the finals, but the fact that they beat the Russians, it never happened before, so big time. Or Slapshot, which is another hockey movie, and it's a comedy. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Multifarious Man podcast. And like I always say, why be various when you can be multifarious? I'll catch you all next week. Peace out. Challenge accepted. Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold. All the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand. I'm a multifarious man.